Hello, tabletop RPGers. I'm JP, back again with another edition of Tablescraps, a video series about tabletop role-playing games. So glad you're here. Please settle in and get comfortable, and welcome to this episode, which will be different than previous videos, as it will be the first one that's an interview with an actual guest from the tabletop RPG community. Guess I'm moving up in the world. This time we're going to take a look at a game that most gamers that do any internet reading, research, or even just web surfing relating to the hobby will likely have come across at least a mention of. Fatal, a retrospective, features an interview with James Haulser, one of the 4 co-authors of Fatal. That's F-A-T-A-L, an acronym probably best known for the game's original title, Fantasy Adventure to Adult Lechery. Its second edition title being From Another Time, Another Land. The game was the original brainchild of Byron Hall, but was the product of not just Mr. Hall, but also Mr. Hausler, as well as Ryan Keane and John Terry. For those unfamiliar with the game, rather than rehash Fatal's controversial history and reception by the gaming community, which really mostly stemmed from the first edition, I'll simply suggest you do a search for Fatal in Tabletop RPG or similar query. You'll get the basic gist of what you need to know to appreciate and understand this interview. On behalf of Mr. Hausler, I ask you to try to approach this interview with an open mind, as he's trying to set the record straight and make people aware that the second edition of Fatal needs to be seen more apart from the first edition, being more than just a straight rehash of the first, with many changes. So, let's begin, and you can decide for yourself how good a case is made here. Here to discuss the infamous and sometimes considered generally reviled tabletop role-playing game known as Fatal, revealing additional information and insights about the game, including his own involvement and why the later version of the game may have been misunderstood, is Mr. James Haulser. James, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
When and why did you get into tabletop role-playing?
Well, to even take it back a step, I think we all started with board games like Monopoly, Risk, and, whatever.
Sure.
And eventually I got into chess, and I always wanted something more. And first game that was kind of brought to my attention when I was 8 years old was the TSR game, board game Dungeon. My cousin had it, and he was 6 years older than me, and I'd play with him, and we didn't just win the game, we'd actually, completely clean out the board. I don't know if you ever played that game.
I've played it, yeah, some. That's a big board to clear out.
Yeah, it's a big board, and you got like 6 different character classes, I don't think there was?
I believe so. So running there, yeah.
Yeah, there was like elf, hero, and then there was like superhero, wizard, and, there was like 4 classes.
So you played Dungeon, and by the introduction of it, is that how you got into the rest of the TSR stuff, and that's what started you in gaming?
Actually, not exactly. That's why I'm actually sharing this, thinking that'd be even more interesting, was that I really didn't touch RPGs after that. And you gotta remember, when I was playing Dungeon, it was like, the early mid-'80s. I actually didn't touch RPGs again until 1998.
That's a surprise. Was there a reason, or just nothing really connected for you? Did you even know anything about them?
I'll be honest, I was at college, and I was, role-playing games kind of had the connotation of nerds, and, I didn't really, I guess when I was a kid, maybe I was a nerd, but I didn't, I was a gym rat. I just didn't know anybody who played RPGs till it was presented to me in 98. My friend Ryan, who was one of the co-contributors to Fatal, he actually invited me over to Byron's to play, because he started playing with Byron in, I want to say, March or April of 1998.
Now, was that playing a different game, or were they already playing Fatal?
No. Fatal didn't exist. They were playing D&D Ed 2. Byron, this was my first meeting with him. I had found out that he was, had probably almost every book, some being very redundant, D&D Ed 2 books. I don't know how familiar you are with Ed 2.
I did some. I started with Advanced Dungeons & Dragons second.
You understand obviously the D20 system and everything else before it was even called D20.
Right.
I first got my introduction, I want to say it was either in April or May of 1998 at Byron's house he was at. We were all attending the same university. That was University of Northern Illinois University in that time period. And Byron was actually Ryan's kind of like guitar teacher at the time, teaching him new techniques and things like that. And Byron and his wife played, and then some other people, and they were trying to develop a gaming group. But in retrospect, I know what it's like trying to even build a gaming group. It's hard to find people who will sit down and play for
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so I joined up with them, and I was really wowed. I was like, I really liked Ed 2 when I first played it.